Hi, I'm David from marblerenovation.com. Today we're going to be discussing how to clean and maintain your marble countertops. Now it can be a right nightmare to see stains appear or etch marks appear, and we know it can be quite unsightly as well. So there are certain things that you can do yourselves, and there are certain things that you're just going to need a professional to come in and do for you. So let's go through the things that you can do yourselves. And if that doesn't deal with or resolve the situation, then we'll move on to how a professional would be able to deal with it. I certainly wouldn't recommend anyone who isn't a professional to do what a professional does. However, it'd be good for you to know how we do it. So let's dive in. So here we are in a bathroom. We can see the client has a black granite vanity top in the bathroom, and all we're going to do is I'm just going to go through the process of what you can do yourself at home with some simple products. One of the products that we certainly recommend is Lithophane Power Clean. You can find the link to this on our website. And another product that I would certainly recommend that you buy is fine wire wool. Now make sure you get the fine version. There's a coarse version and a medium version, but this fine wire wool is fantastic to get off any grime that you might find on any of your stone surfaces. It gets rid of lime scale as well on glass. Really easy way to take these grime marks off that are on the surface without damaging your stone or your glass. So fine wire wool, Power Clean Lithophane. I've got here as well a dry cloth, and I've got an old t-shirt here that I can use to just buff the area once done. So we'll go through the process and we'll have a look to see how it comes up. Okay, so all we're going to do now is just with a little bit of water, first things first, we're just going to get rid of all the dust and grime that's on the surface. So just some clean water, and we can wipe away anything that's on the surface. First of all, that would be the first thing we do. We don't want any of the dust or any grit that could be on the surface to get under our pads. Or if we do need to go professionally and use the rotary machine, then we certainly don't want nothing getting underneath the diamond pads, which could then scratch the surface. So for now, the only thing we're doing is just getting rid of anything that's on the surface. I'm only doing that with a little bit of water, nothing more. Get in the corners. Now next thing I want to do is I just want to dry that surface, because I'm going to use a little bit of wire wool now to get anything that hasn't come off with just simple water. Usually maybe soap scum and things like this can remain on the surface, or maybe a little bit of lime scale around the taps as well is quite a usual thing. So now that I've dried it, the surface, I'm going to use a little bit of fine wire wool to remove anything that remains on the surface. So do be careful with this, it can cut your skin. So when ripping a piece off, it's good to make a little ball, hold it together, and then you can pull apart. It's quite simple. Okay, so now I'm gonna, with my fingers, just check to see if there is any scum on the surface, and then just lightly, all I'm doing is buffing the area lightly, and it will come off. So usually around the corners I can feel some. That's fine. Just give it all a little buff. It's fine. And then especially around the taps. Okay, let's get rid of that lime scale that's built up, that hard water stains that we can see sometimes. We can get rid of that. And then you can even use it around your taps as well to get rid of those hard water spots that you can see, those lime scale spots. We can get those. Now remember, I did mention this before, but please only use the fine wire wool, because the coarse stuff will scratch. It will scratch your stone, it can scratch your taps and even the glass. All right, so be careful. So make sure it's only fine wire wool that you go for. Okay, so then once that's done, The surface is now ready. All I'm going to do now is, again with the dry, just get rid of any residue that may still be on the surface. And now what we can do is, with the same wet rag that we used before, we can now use some Power Clean, Lithophane Power Clean on the surface. You can put it on neat and then rub it over. Probably safer to just put it directly onto your rag. Okay, so I'm just going to put a little bit, and then we'll go around the surface as well. And then again, any residue that's been left or that we didn't get off before, again, this Power Clean is going to really help clean the surface, as you can see. Now, usually just this process, quite simple process, is enough. You can also put some sealant on it if you wish. There's a product called Lithophane Stain Stop. It's called Lithophane Stain Stop, that can be used. Again, you can put it onto the surface, rub it on like we've just done here. Leave it to dry. You'll notice that once it dries, it will leave streaks. Don't worry about it. Again, use your fine wire wool to just buff the area, and all those streak marks will come right off. So now I'm just going to dry the area. Buff it down well. And then you can see that it's come up like new. Lovely shine on the surface. We've taken off all the watermarks from the tap as well, and left it looking lovely for the owners. Now, of course, it's not always going to be that simple. Sometimes you'll have etch marks, sometimes you'll have scratches, things that just can't be taken off with a little bit of Power Clean, a little bit of elbow grease. So then you will have to get a professional in. And just for the purposes of the video, I'll show you one of the procedures that we do with our hand machine to bring up the shine. So here we have our rotary hand machine that we have. We have our diamond pads here. We have different grades, the red, yellow and green, depending on how deep I need to cut the surface. For this video, I'm just going to use the green, which is the lightest, which is just a polish to go over the surface. But if we did need to get rid of a scratch or get rid of etch marks, well, we'd have to go through each pad, go through the whole system before we can bring the colour back. I've got some stone soap, it's just natural stone soap that we use, that really helps to moisturise the surface and really helps with the polishing. So I'll just put a little bit of that. I've got it just in a soap container. I'll put some of that onto the surface, and then we'll use the rotary machine just to give it a polish. Just going to put some of this stone soap all over the surface. It's got a lovely smell to it as well, this product. So we'll just put that over everywhere, and now we'll get our rotary machine, our green diamond pad, and we'll diamond polish now the surface. just give it a nice buff with a dry rag. I just use an old t-shirt that I have, so you can use the same at home. There's no need to buy anything fancy. Just buff what's left. And then to finalise, just a little bit of the fine wire wool to just remove any streaks that may be from the drying water, and then that's it. So there you go. It's quite an easy process, isn't it? So if you do have a natural stone countertop, whether it's in the kitchen, in the bathroom, wherever it is, you've seen the procedure. We used a Lithophane Deep Clean was one of the products we used. We used fine wire wool. I'll remind you, please don't use the coarse stuff because that could really scratch the surface. Make sure it's the fine wire wool that you use. That removes any grime, soap scum, or any of those hard water spots, lime scale that you can see around the tap. You can remove it with this fine wire wool. And then it's just a case of cleaning, a little bit of elbow grease, make sure that everything's removed from the surface, and it's pretty simple stuff. You can also use a product which we didn't use in the video, but it's called Lithophane Stain Stop, and you can put it on just like I put on the Deep Clean, put it all over the surface, let it dry. Once it dries, you'll probably notice a lot of marks across the surface where it's dried. You'll see these streaks of where the product has dried. Don't worry, just with a little bit of the fine wire wool you can buff the area and all of those streaks will come out. If you have any etch marks, if you've got any scratches that can't come off with the way that we've suggested, you will have to call a professional. We work in the London area. We also cover Barcelona in Spain and Alicante as well, down the Costa Blanca. We cover all these areas. If you're watching from somewhere else in the world, please feel free to reach out, to give me a call, no problem at all. I'm happy to give some free advice and talk you through the process on how to clean your countertops. Well, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye now.